what you take away is as important as what you keep in reverse applique. So we are making these really cute embroidery hoop projects, and you can make this any size, as big or as small as your hoop, and it's very easy to do. It all starts with a drawing. So the first thing you want to do is you want to take your hoop, and it doesn't matter whether it's wood, plastic, whatever, and you're going to do exactly what I've done here, which is I just took a black marker and I traced the inside of the hoop. Okay, so that is my very first dimension that I need. Then you're going to take a piece of paper. I think it's better if it's a thin piece of paper, like something like copy paper, because you can see that I can still see the circle through here. And now is the doodling part. So you want to doodle shapes that can easily be cut out. So let's see, if I'm going to do this leaf like this, you can see how easy that is. And you can just keep rotating it around and making all these shapes. Now you can go outside the edges of the hoop if you wish, or you can stay inside. I tend to prefer the look of when it goes outside the hoop because I just like that little extra something going off the edge. So I will purposely go off the edge over and over. And once I've finished all of my doodling, I'm going to show you some examples of what you might end up with. So this is one, you can see it's kind of mandala style. It's not perfect. The other thing I want to point out is it's okay to have any stray marks inside the shape. Okay, those aren't going to show up in any way. You just don't want to have any stray marks outside the shapes, because these outsides of the shapes is what we're going to be scanning in to go ahead and cut. Then you can see I love this leaf design. Instead of being in a circle, it still fits within our template, but it's a little more asymmetrical, so you could play around with some of the placement there. And then even text. Here you can see I just wrote out, "You bring me joy." And again, it fits inside that hoop. So if you're ready with your drawing, what you're gonna do is put it into a scanning mat, and then with my electronic cutter, I'm just gonna go ahead and scan in that design. So from the home screen, I'm gonna go ahead and choose scan, scan to cut data, make sure I'm in the grayscale mode, and then go ahead and press start. Lower my scanner lever, so I get a nice clean scan, and that will now create the design for me. And once I see it on the screen, I'm gonna have the ability to resize it, to change it, to fix anything that didn't work out. So this is a really easy and forgiving technique. Now, what if you can't draw? Don't worry about it at all, because you can certainly take a pre-made drawing of any kind, even a coloring book page, and you can go ahead and scan that in too. And there are lots of also pre-made applique designs that you can get as well. So this is easy, easy. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose the outline scan. If you wanna get a really clean scan, you're just gonna pull in the edges here, and then I can go ahead and save this. And I'm gonna save it right into my electronic cutter. And then we are gonna be ready to, well, almost ready to start cutting it, which is really exciting. So let me unload this and let me explain to you what I'm using. This is fabric, but it looks and it feels like paper. And the reason for that is because, I'm gonna flip this over, I have put fusible on the back and I've left the paper on this. That's really important because you want this to be as stiff as possible. The other thing is, before I put the fusible on, I actually used a spray starch to make sure that this was as firm as possible, because we are cutting itty bitty teeny little shapes, and I want this to be really, really easy to cut. So I'm gonna take a mat, which I've prepped with a super sticky sheet so that it will hold the fabric. I'm gonna place it with the fabric side down against the mat. And I've done this with like small scrappy bits, so you do not have to have a piece that completely covers the whole mat. But you do wanna make sure that it is firmly on there. And I find that using a brayer, credit card, hotel room key, something like that is a little bit easier than your hands, just because it really makes sure that it's secure. So once that's set, we're gonna load it into the machine, just like so. And then we want to go ahead and get that file ready for cutting. So I'm just going to go ahead, pull it up. I know we saved it into the machine, so it's right there. Now, if I wanted, I could move it, adjust it, but I think it's fine just where it is. So I'm going to say okay, and I am going to choose cut. And before I cut anything, I just want to check. My blade is in the machine, everything looks good. I can do a test cut if I want to make sure it's going to cut properly, but instead I'm going to trust it and just press start. And now it's going to go ahead and cut my fabric out for me, and I am about to have an amazing project, actually 2 projects in one. So it looks like we're almost done cutting. And as soon as this pops out, we're gonna be able to have a project in about 2 seconds. It's really cool. So I'm gonna unload this, and then I'm going to use a spatula to ease this off the mat. It's just a little bit easier than my fingers. Once you get a corner started, you can usually get the whole thing. I do want to be a little bit careful when I'm pulling this off because, like I said, these are tiny little delicate strips. So I like to pull the sort of major parts of the fabric off and then gently go into the center because I don't want to rip anything. If I do this correctly, I will actually have both the reverse applique and a traditional applique, which is kind of exciting. So I'm being a little bit careful. You can always use a spatula if it seems really sticky or stuck down somewhere. And once this is up, you'll see our incredible doodled pattern in real life. It's very, very cool. So I'm going to keep pulling on this. You can bend the mat if you need to. Sometimes that helps too. But again, I tell you not to be impatient and to take it nice and slow and not to worry about it. You know, there is a thing in crafting I really think is true about, like, slow and steady wins the race. So here we go. Okay, so you can see the design right here looks a little fuzzy, but we're gonna bring it over to the iron and put it on. So I have a piece of fabric, which I'm just gonna warm up with a little bit of an iron. It's always a good idea. Then I'm going to grab my scissors because I don't want all this excess. I just want the part of the design that is cut out. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut kind of close to it here so that I have a nice outline. And once that is done, then I am ready to peel off my paper. And I can lay down my design. You can see all these little spiky bits, but this is where the reverse part comes into play because what you thought probably was the background is the foreground, and what you thought was the foreground is the background. So I'm just going to iron this into place. There you go. And all I would do is pop this into the hoop like so. And if you look at the finished one right here, you'll see that yellow fabric is the background, the purple is the foreground, and you can of course embellish it any way you want with embroidery floss, beads, but this is a really easy way to do it. And if you really want, you can take the extra pieces off the mat and make a second one.